It's 12:30 here on Radio 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, from a pottery factory canteen in Stoke-on-Trent, welcome to Workers' Playtime! And to open the show today, please welcome Tom Menard.
Hello. You know, this brings back memories. The last time I was with Alan Randall, Les Dawson, and the Harry Haywood trio doing a work at Playtime, we had to abandon the show halfway through because of a Zeppelin raid. I've had to change doctors because mine, I don't want this to go further, died. He was ill and he treated himself. I mean, it must have been off his head. And they said, you've got to re-register because of claiming in case you're ill. So I go to, it's the same surgery, but a new bloke. And he's got a funny cough. And I sat there, you know what it's like in a waiting room, don't you? Nobody talks, do they? Have you noticed? Yes, well, they do. They say, so-and-so went last week. You know, you don't know whether they mean to Tesco or they've gone up there, you know. And when it came my turn to go in, and you know at our place, because the doctor never closes the door so that his patients aren't embarrassed. Oh, I've heard some funny cases sitting. I mean, that woman from 47, I don't know how she put up with it all those years. And the sample never came back. Anyway. So, no, wait, just a minute, Mr. Haywood. I didn't laugh at you when you were playing the piano. Every right to. When I got in, the doctor, he said, who are you? So I told him, he said, I've never heard of you. I said, I've never heard of you. So I said, have you taken over from the bloke what snuffed it? He says, we don't use that phrase in the medical profession. We say he's gone before. I said, well, he's gone before he needed done, because if he'd gone to a proper doctor, he'd have still been there, you know. So he said, what is it? I said, well, apparently I have to sign a paper. He said, not till I've examined your body. Take your clothes off. I said, what? He said, take your clothes off. I said, how can I take my clothes off? Your nurse is there. He said, don't you worry about her. She's served in all foreign wars. She seemed terrible. Get your clothes off. So I took my clothes off, and I was standing there practicing coughing. I noticed his nurse looking at my body, and she wasn't admiring it. I was livid. I said, excuse me, nurse, I don't like the way you're looking at my body. I said, this body is dynamite. She said, it's got a very small fuse. Well, what? So he said, I can do nothing with you at the moment. Come back in a week's time and bring your body. So I went round to the Goat and Compasses, well, I usually do, and Charlie was in there, and he'd been away on holiday. I was very annoyed about this, because, well, holiday, honeymoon, if you can call it a honeymoon. The receptionist, Mrs. had a headache. And I said, you're looking very depressed. He said, well, we only got back yesterday. I said, what's that got to do with it? He said, well, I had a letter this morning and I opened it and I suppose I looked a bit depressed. And the wife says, what is it, darling? And I said to her, nothing. Forget it. She said, forget it. How can I? We are now as one. Well, you could have fooled him. With what hadn't happened, you know, and she said, tell me. He said, I don't want to worry you. It's a bit upsetting. She said, tell me. This house is our house. This phone bill is our phone bill. This garden is our garden. What is in the letter? He said, do you insist? She said, yes, I do. He said, you remember that secretary who worked for me when I was at that pottery company? She says, yes. He said, well, she's expecting our baby. Oh! I said, Charlie, I know it was your honeymoon, but you might have remembered your friends. He said, I sent you a card. I said, yes. You did send me a card. I said, of Blackpool Crematorium. So he said, it's a lovely building. I said, yes. But I do not want to get, Charlie, from you, on your honeymoon, a postcard of Blackpool Crematorium with written on the back, Dear Tom, wish you were here. Here, wish you were here each time. I wasn't. I'll see you again. Bye for now, folks.
And now, Alan Randall.
Everybody's got a crazy notion of their own. Some like to mix up in the crowd, some like to be alone. It's no one else's business as far as I can see. Every time I go out, the people stare at me with my little ukulele in me hand. People just don't understand. Some say, why don't you be a scout? Why don't you read a book? But I get lots of pleasure when I'm playing with me uke. Of course I take no notice, you can tell. Me mother's advice will always stand. She said, my boy, do what I say. You'll never go astray if you keep your ukulele in your hand. Oh baby, keep your ukulele in your hand. Made up my mind I'd get wed 18 months ago. I even bought a book about the things you ought to know. But just about a week ago, I had an awful fright. I had to get dressed quickly in the middle of the night, and with my little ukulele in my hand, I ran along the road with Dr. Brown. It didn't take him long to get his little bag of tools. I held his hat and coat, I let him have me book of rules. And on the bedroom door he looked and smiled. He said, come inside, see your wife and child. My heart did jump with joy, I could see it was a boy, 'cause he had a ukulele in his hand. Just a little, and he had a ukulele in his hand. lovely audience, and now for my final number. Yes, we're not doing long today. Come on, sing this one. I'm leaning on the lamppost at the corner of the street in case a certain little lady. Champion, oh me, oh my. I hope the little lady goes by. I don't know if she'll get away, she doesn't always get away, but anyway, I know that she'll try. Oh me, oh my. I hope the little lady goes by. Look me, there's no other girl I could wait for than this one I pray can today for. I won't have to ask what she's late for. Your turn, she wouldn't leave me flat. Now she's absolutely wonderful and marvelous and beautiful and everyone. She works at Minton's. I'm leaning on the lamppost, the corner of the street, in case a certain little lady. It's turned out nice again, I owe the little lady. Well, I haven't always played the ukulele for a living. In fact, before I learned to play the ukulele, I was a musician. I was, and today we're going to do a little number which also features the Harry Haywood Trio. This is a good old jazz standard, and it's called Moonglow.
Ladies and gentlemen, we come now to the star of our show. Will you welcome Les Dawson?
The lame pockmark, digger of graves, bared his rotting teeth in a wolfish grimace, wiped the steaming clay from his broken hands, and stared with empty sockets at the ashen-faced mourners, hunched closer together as the cold grey fog embraced them in its clammy shroud. The wind howled like a lost soul in dire torment, and from beyond the dark, brooding, rain-sodden hills, a demented dwarf strangled his pet raccoon. All together now! Happy days are here again! Happy days are here again! Now, let's face it, where would we be without a laugh? Here. Out. And let's get one thing straight before we go any further. I'm not here just for the money. If I was to be appearing here in Stoke, and I've been to Stoke before, but it was shut. If I was... If I was here just for purely material gain, then may the gods above rob me of speech, and that's one thing none of us even want to think about. But I've seen the kitchens here, and I must be honest, you can eat off the floor. Because the tables are filthy. We've had a meal in there, and I must say, you couldn't fault the food. There wasn't enough to form an opinion. We just threw a sausage roll at an Alsatian in the corner. And the dog spent the entire afternoon with its paw down its throat. It really is smashing to be on radio. The last time I did a broadcast, it was when the Queen got married. I remember that I turned to the producer at the time and I said I hope the Queen will be very happy with Prince Albert. Me and Harry A would have been in this game for years, haven't we, kid? Yeah. We can remember when the Archers only had an allotment. And what a thrill to be doing workers' playtime. It's a thrill to be working to people who are working. I'm not saying things are bad, but if you look at closely at the new issue of banknotes, you'll find that the Queen's tiara's got a pawn ticket on it. One of my neighbours has been out of work so often now, one of his insurance stamps is worth more than a penny black. I don't mind failing, I've lived with it, I married one. No. Things are so bad in our business. I know a fellow who owns a circus and the elephants can't remember when they last worked. But that's one thing about me. The depression doesn't bother me because I was a failure during the boom. And you can't tell the government to go to hell because they're building it for us. Still, if things get worse, I can always fall back on the wife. She looks like an unmade bed. I'm not saying she's ugly, but she went to see that film, The Elephant Man, and the audience thought she was making a personal appearance. I've never known a complexion like that woman's. She's got blue veins, white flesh and spots. It's as though somebody shoveled Stilton in a pair of knickers. She's bone idle. She knew damn well I had to come here today and I had to shout her 3 times to come and dress me. To add to my trough of woe, and I don't like to bore you with it because you've always got problems if you don't, but about 3 months ago, the wife's mother came to live with us. As soon as I heard the knock on the door, I knew it was her because the mice were throwing themselves on the traps. I saw her lurch down the garden path like a badly chipped frigate. Face like a bag of spanners. So for a minute, when I ran at the back of the house, went up behind and went... She said, "You fat fool." She said, "I damn near dropped dead," so I went... The wife said, "Mummy's here, how would you like to speak to her?" I said, "Through a spiritualist." Before I go, I've been asked to make an appeal on behalf of the management. As you know, production is down. In fact, the way things are going in, it's going to pot. But I do believe we have in the audience a lot of people who are conservationist-minded, as I am myself. I believe in conservationism, ecology, call it what you will. And there are some tins. I should go out. If you just put whatever you've got, any coppers, for a very worthy cause, which is for the restoration of the black-infested swallowback duck of Bridlington. For those of you who are not familiar with this wonderful feathered friend of our shores, in brief, the little bird, this tiny friend, feathered little denizen, likes to mate on the edge of the cliffs, so that warm currents of air spiral and ruffle her feathers, and in the modern parlance, switch her on. Throughout late October, the male hangs from a diseased elm until he hears this distinctive mating cry. He leaps down off the twig, picks up his feathers in a tight bunch round his chest, and in a series of swoops and skips, attempts to cover the female in the simple act of procreation. But because of oil slicks on the cliffs, he tends to skid over the top, and he falls down the cliff. And when they've done this 3 or 4 times, they do tend to say, "Let's have a drink with the lads." The whole aim of our society is to give them little sandals with spikes. Just to give them a bite. Because a frustrated duck is better than none at all. Now let's have a sing-along. Let's start off with that golden oldie, Side by Side. So let's hear those tonsils rattle. Are we ready? For me and my gal. Try to keep together if you can.
In Workers' Playtime today, you heard Alan Randall, Tom Menard, and Les Dawson, with music by the Harry Haywood Trio. The programme was presented by Peter Wheeler and produced by James Casey and Ron MacDonald.
Well, that seemed to go down a treat, didn't it? You can hear another edition of Workers' Playtime at the same time tomorrow when it comes from A Sweet Factory in New Mills, starring Roy Castle. And there's more nostalgia in the air between 3:30 and 4 this afternoon, and indeed every day this week, with the return of Music While You Work. You'll find the well-known signature tune to that half hour is one of 60 on a double album released this week, 60 years of BBC theme music to mark this Diamond Jubilee celebration, on the BBC record label, of course, and you should find copies in the shops this very Friday.